All right, so this is going to be a long one, right? I made a short one talking about Elemental Dungeons, kind of like my first impressions, my review, whatever the case you want to call it. I'm about to hit you with a long one. I was typing this up earlier today. I was in the bathroom. Excuse me, I burped. I'm not cutting that out. And I wanted to talk about everything that I experienced, everything that like I've seen, and like my take on everything. And I'm gonna give it to you all, right? So, you don't really have to like watch this video. It's gonna be just footage of me clearing dungeons. I did this in a live stream some days ago, and I wanted to use it as footage. And I guess because what I have to say, kind of what I've like pre-written down, and also what um, I kind of planned on talking about, some stuff that I haven't written down but took really, really tiny notes on. I feel like we'll probably cover at least 20 minutes worth of stuff. So, yeah, you know, I'm going to get into it based on what I've experienced. This is basically my first impressions on Elemental Dungeons. So, let's get into it. All right, so I'm back after taking an extremely messy and it was just a bad poop, man. My stomach was hurting me, it was killing me. That's kind of why my last video I was kind of like dead in it because my stomach was just upsetting me. But I am back now. I am free. I am liberated of that terrible, terrible food. I had like the sloppiest meal ever from Wendy's. I don't usually eat it, but I got it from um, my parents. Like they got it for me just because they thought that I would have been hungry. And I mean, it was all right, but it really messed my stomach up. But whatever the case may be, here I am. It is time for a real review. So let's get into it. This is Elemental Dungeons. My first impressions on it. My 4 to maybe 5 day experience on it because I've not played this game longer than a week, and I'm already like level 100 in like 10, right? But I did put in one of the codes to get double EXP. I didn't really get the chance to play like a whole bunch. So overall, I'd say as many like hours as I put into like dungeoning as a whole, maybe like 14, maybe. I want to say maybe. Could be wrong. I don't know. I just know it hasn't been like a whole bunch, right? And I'm touching that. I'm going off script, obviously, but I'm touching that because I met a max level, and they were 210. I met two max levels who were 210. I met another max level who was 165. I don't necessarily know what those bigger differences are, mainly because the game has a lot of different things in it where it seems like some rules apply to some things, but other things it doesn't, even though it should. And the information that you can find on like wikis, Google, YouTube is like either non-existent or not helpful, like at all. But I'll get into that a little bit later on. So let's start it out. In my previous video, I considered this somewhat of a Blox Fruit clone, and even though it's still in beta, I still somewhat stand by it. This game is like Blox Fruits in similar ways. Mind you, I am going off of what I remember when I was experiencing Blox Fruits, so this is pre-Kitsune and pre-New Level Cap, alright? As far as graphics go, this game shares them with Blox Fruits. It has this somewhat goofy feel while still keeping some kind of block-like presence. You know, everything kind of feels like chunky almost, like it's built off of its own system of looks, right? If that can make sense. I know that might sound like a bit of a stretch or even confusing, but while grinding for literal hours while playing this game, I kept seeing Blox Fruits like it looked like an off-brand Blox Fruits. Like it still had that feel of Blox Fruits in it, and I think maybe that's what pulled me in so much because I loved Blox Fruits. So it's not like I hated this game coming in, right? Um, I had intense deja vu playing this game. The EXP bar being roughly the same color, having the same signifying signals, or, well, no. So what happens is the EXP bar, as you can see in the bottom right, it's purple. It's got the little grid or whatever the case may be. I remember from memory Blox Fruits having a similar color and roughly looking the same. And when you get double EXP in this game, from memory of what I can kind of remember, it's kind of labeled the exact same way it would be when you play in Blox Fruits. That could have changed, or maybe that was never the case. Like I said, it's been a minute since I played it, but while playing, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this looking like this in Blox Fruits as well. So, like if you played Blox Fruits, you're definitely going to have like an understanding of how this game works, at least somewhat, right? Um, the health bar and EXP bar are like grouped together, which from memory, I believe Blox Fruits kind of had that going on as well. And the health bar being roughly the same, like shade of green, it like very similar to Blox Fruits. Like I said, I don't know how much has changed. It's been a long minute. This is all kind of going off of like my rough memory from way back then. The enemies appear the same, they move the same, and they would even have the same type of health bar at times. Where in this case, through playing this game, I rarely have seen the health bars of enemies until I got to a certain level. But when I did see them, excuse me, it's like the standard Roblox health bar. At least I would believe that it's like the standard Roblox health bar. I believe Blox Fruits definitely does have like this health bar above pretty much all enemies at all times. But in this game, it was a little bit different. This game overall to me looked like Blox Fruits. That's just one of the points I wanted to make. Now that we've passed that. But looks are not everything. You can put makeup on a man, but my friends still won't date me. When you get into the combat of the game, it is something fierce. It shares Blox Fruits points. The skills are mapped to letters. This has become this has become a common agenda in games such as these, so I can't solely let it represent Blox Fruits, but to me, from memory, even the font slash icons are the same. I think the cooldown bars showing you when you can use the move again are nice, but they can feel so slow at times. Touching the end of like a skill when you're ready to use it, but like touching a skill, right? But the EXP, like the little cooldown bar in the skill, when it's slowly coming to like the end and you're tapping that skill, you're trying to use it. Sometimes it doesn't line up, even though it kind of looks like it's about to end, it doesn't really end, and you might have to wait like another half second. That half second can really determine what happens in a fight. It can determine if you kill the boss. It can determine if you die. It can determine like just those are the really like the main two, or killing a nearby enemy. And this can be super important because enemies drop gear, not all the time, but they can drop gear. They can drop healing potions, which can save your life. When hitting a boss, it can determine whether or not that boss hits their second phase, or if they stay the same, or if it's not about the boss hitting like the second phase, it can determine whether it saves you from a skill that the boss is going to use that could kill you, right? Because if you don't use it at the right time, you can die. In this game, if you die when you're in a dungeon, you lose time. If you lose time, that could count towards you failing. Not only that, but if you die while in a dungeon, you lose the bonus EXP you would have gotten if you cleared the dungeon without dying, right? So that was something that I really wanted to touch as well. The elements in this game are like the fruits and Blox Fruits, not entirely in the case that they have the exact same elements and abilities, but more so that they affect, but more so, excuse me, that the effects slightly share the same feel, and there are some effects that are in each game. So like, as a fair warning, I haven't used every single element, I haven't used every single fruit, so I don't know what all is like the exact same and what all isn't, but like the biggest ones that I want to compare, and it's mainly because I usually run with those two in between Blox Fruits and this game, is Angel and Buddha. In Buddha, I'm sorry, in Blox Fruits, Buddha is basically a fruit that allows you to grow larger. When you grow larger, you glow golden, and I believe you have damage reduction while in Buddha form. So you take less damage while people are beating you. But while at the same time, you have some skills centered around Buddha that are kind of like magic based that you can use to do like AoE attacks. But also, you can turn your normal M1 attacks, which are your auto attacks, your basic attacks, you can turn those into enhanced versions of themselves where they can reach farther than what they're normally supposed to and hit more enemies or a group of enemies all at once, which can make using a melee weapon very useful. It could come out being very useful for people who have fairly strong melee weapons. In this game, it is essentially the same. Angel, as you can actually see on here if you are watching, it makes you larger, it makes you golden, it gives you wings to kind of, I guess, change between like Buddha and what an angel would be, I guess. Um, but everything else for the most part is still the same. I think you take less damage while you are in that form. You have a few moves. They're mainly focused around healing, but AoE damage as well. And the biggest thing is that they increase your basic attack range with weapons. So if you're using like swords, melee weapons, whatever the case may be, this can be very useful for you in game, right? So side by side, those are really similar. It's not like I'm taking shots at it or hating it or anything. I'm just pointing out things that I personally have seen while playing the game, and I wanted to make sure that I got these out to anybody who would have cared, right? All right. Now that we've gotten that deep out, excuse me. So I was wondering. I know in this game you have like three sets of skills, right? You like that you can upgrade when you level up. It's magic, it's strength, and it's health. I'm wondering because I believe in Blox Fruits, Buddha lasts forever until you decide to turn it off. So in this game, it does not. It is on a timer. I'm wondering if the higher the level the mastery, the longer the timer lasts. In my experience, that's not the case. But I wonder if you like hit a certain level, it is the case. I'm curious about that, and if it's not, hey, developer, creator, whatever the case may be, if you can hear me, that would probably be a really cool like aspect to have, not just with this element, but with a lot of the elements, the ones that have moves where you are in a form or you have to hold it down to like use a move. Like I had like a corrupted version of air or one of like the smoke move. Like when you're using smoke, your I think it's your R move. You form a circle around yourself and you push people away. It would be cool if like the higher the mastery, the longer you could use that move, not just the more damage that it does. Um, but maybe you have some other form of like ideas that you want around that. So maybe this isn't gonna reach out to you at all. Maybe nobody will hear me. But that's something that I was kind of pitching when I was like brainstorming all this. Unlike Blox Fruits, this game doesn't have many weapons that hold more than one ability. Come to think of it from memory, I don't even think Blox Fruits had many either. I know there's one specific weapon in this game that people push for, and it's because it's a weapon that can be altered to carry the effect of an element, which makes it a bit overpowered when playing. My friend showed me it, and its cooldown was almost non existent on a weapon that has pretty fair reach if it were an element, and even more insane damage if you're putting your points in correctly. So, for example, um, there could be more than just one weapon, but as far as I've heard and seen, there's one main weapon. It's a katana. It's purple. You can get it reworked basically so that it glows lightning. If it glows lightning, it gains a skill, which kind of does play along with your mastery, I believe. And that's when it gains its mastery, is when it has a skill, which I thought was a little strange. If you ever play Blox Fruits, from memory, you can fight with different weapons, and these different weapons have their own individual masteries, and because of this, I want to say that those weapons had skills, but it could have simply been that these weapons had their own individual masteries, no skills, and these weapons just did different damage based on how many like enemies you killed and how well you leveled it up. It is not the case in this game. As you can see, I'm using, it looks like a candy cane sword or like a present gift wrapped kind of sword. This is just a cosmetic. The actual sword is like a blue ice sword, right? But I've used like five, six, seven swords. In my last video, you can see I had a wooden sword, then I had a long sword. There is no mastery when you're swinging with this, and if there is, the game does not tell you there is. So I'm wondering, are these, like, is every sword or axe or spear or different type of weapon going to have skills in the future because this is a beta? Or is this going to be one of those things where it's only certain special weapons that you go the extra mile for. Because, like I said in my last video, I like a game with variety. I like the idea of being able to make whatever build that you want. And though it is viable to use like straight melee, I did before I got Angel. Excuse my bird. I don't know if I have any recording to that. But even though it is viable to do so, obviously there are ups and downs to using like melee weapons or using solely elements or mixing up the two. And that was just another thing that I wanted to complain about. This game has a hockey. It has hockey. You can unlock it for a small fee of coins, like 45,000, which you can get from selling gear and just playing through dungeons in time. The higher the level of the dungeon, the more golden gear you'll get. For those of you who don't know what hockey is, it's essentially a form in One Piece, the anime, the show. It's a form that characters have, and even then, it's not entirely a form. It comes in a bunch of different aspects from what I've seen. By the way, I haven't seen it start to finish, but it comes in different aspects. And in this case, the biggest aspect that I've seen reused in a lot of games is that you can enhance the damage of your M1s, your sword swings, or your axe swings, or your fist with gauntlets, your scythe. It basically enhances the damage of these weapons so that you do even more damage. And it makes it so that if you're using a weapon, you're going to be a whole lot more useful than somebody who is using a weapon and doesn't have hockey. From my understanding, I think it depends on your scale and your skills and whatnot, but the damage could range as much as like an extra 100 from what I was hearing. So that can be super useful. The reason I bring up hockey and other touches is because I want to point out what I'm aware of and what I've seen. For a game like this being in beta, it has a lot about it that can be entertaining. Even though it does, it can also be a bit of a disheartening start for people who are running into dungeons blind with no real understanding of what kind of game this is. I personally enjoy the excess features the game offers, and that's why I want to cover as much as I can. For example, you can equip and hide the armor you wear so that your basic Roblox outfit can show. I always like the power of choice. Armor, however, in this game, excuse me, isn't as vast and creative yet. You really can only equip up to 3 main pieces of armor: a hat, a chest plate, and shoes. To add to this, each piece of armor can drop randomly in dungeons with different stats or rolls. So you have a chance of getting something amazing in its level, or you have a chance of getting something pitiful in its level. For example, you could. By the way, this armor and stuff, it drops from enemies, and obviously this game has a ranking system in the like value of rarity or stats. Like, for example, I could get shoes, right? I could play through a dungeon and it could drop literally only shoes, right? I could have blue shoes, red shoes, and green shoes, right? I could have different variations of each one. So I could have like 4 pairs of blue shoes, 5 pairs of red shoes, 2 pairs of green shoes, right? And let's say like for the blue shoes, one of them gives me, by the way, all the gear gives you health, right? There's no extra stat. You get an extra stat by having a full set of that gear, but each individual piece of gear solely gives you more health, right? So say like the 5 blue shoes, I have 5 of them, right? One of them for base health is like 400. Another for base health is like 320. Another for base health is like 345. Another, so like the rest are in the 300s, and then I have one that's 400. That 400 would be like the god roll of those shoes, right? It is much higher than all the other blue shoes. It offers a higher health, which is something that, excuse me, at least from my understanding, is what you're going to be looking for as far as like armor goes. As far as individual pieces go, because they don't offer anything else as far as I've seen. It's strictly been health. When you get all 3 of those pieces of like armor together, a chest piece, your shoes, and your hat, your helmet, whatever you want to call it, when you have all 3 of those together, that's when you get like a set bonus. And as far as I've seen, the only set bonus that you get from those are magic and health, right? On top of this, items can come in rarities. So you can get items in legendaries, you can get items in rares. I believe you can get them in mythics and anything lower than any of what I've just named. You can also get those items in as well. Obviously, legendaries and hires have way better stats than anything else. Uh, the lower the level of the item, if it's a legendary, chances are it's not going to be better than a base higher level item. But I guess that all depends on the drop in the roll. Okay, so that's a very interesting system to see. Basically, if you're running through a dungeon trying to get gear, you're not really looking for anything special. You're looking for something with fairly decent health, which on average, if you're just running the dungeon, you can kind of see what kind of gear is going to drop for you by default and just try to find the highest of that. But outside of that, you're going to look for the set bonus for that gear. So if you're going like you want more health in your like your whole armor set, right? Like you're using weapons like I did. I used straight swords while wearing my armor set. I'm obviously not going to go for a full armor set of magic, even if the full armor set of magic has like each piece has higher health. I'm going to try to, well, I mean, I might wear it temporarily, but ultimately I'm going to try to find a better set of gear where it all boosts health as a set bonus because I'm not going to be using magic at all, right? I was strictly using sword and health. And you're probably like, okay, well, where's the set pieces for sword? There are none. As far as I've seen, it's only health and magic. So it's either to make you tankier or to do more damage as a magic dealer. Um, and to make up for this, though, you have accessories. You have two accessories, right? You can only equip two at a time. For the most part, they're rings. It's usually a bunch of different rings that drop, but overall, they basically drop the same thing, right? It's either more sword damage, more health, or more magic damage. And this kind of helps when it's like time to like make a build because then you can like build based off of what you have. Oh, well, I have all this extra magic damage and I've got higher stats for magic damage, so I might as well respin my skills and put it all in magic and equip an element that does more damage. And hey, if that's what you want to do, then by all means go for it. But you can also do the same with health. And if you want to like use straight swords, you can have like half of a hybrid build with health and swords, or you can go straight swords and then just try to find some really high health gear and hope that it keeps you alive. Right? You could also do that as well. And yeah, that's ultimately how the sets work. I've seen people wear necklaces, but I believe those necklaces come from crafting. So they don't just drop in dungeons, from my understanding, or at least not any that I've really seen. Speaking of crafting, man, it's like this whole little system where you can go and speak to this NPC who's basically going to offer you the chance to build this item, that item, this item, that item, or this item. And you can build it, but you need the certain materials for it. And usually it's going to be something crazy like 50,000 gold and 400 base scrap, which I think you get from like selling items. And then you're also going to need like two or three of these versions of this element. So you're going to need to go out and find this element and then hope that you get it. And then on top of all that, you're gonna need like one last thing, which you can get from like a chest. There are chests randomly spawned around this game, just in random places, and each chest offers something different. Usually, people have kind of broken it down in YouTube videos and whatnot. So if you really want to see it, you could look through them. From my understanding, if it's like glowing red, it drops a free element. Nothing that's like legendary or higher, from what I've heard. If it's gold, it's got a ton of money in it. Really, like 200 plus gold in it per chest. Any other chests are like low count gold, or maybe, excuse me, a good item. I think purple and bright red and gold are the three big ones. I might have been wrong about the red. Like maybe the red drops an item and purple drops the element. I can't remember. At one point, I just started ignoring them, taking tips from a YouTuber, which didn't really help because I actually needed that gold and kind of realized that this YouTuber was um, such a high level and had been playing the game from way back when that, of course, he's not going to care about the gold because he's at such a high dungeon that he doesn't need to worry about it. So, it's different with everybody. But yeah, that's basically crafting. You have the chance to craft new items to make your character stronger, make your gameplay and experience a little easier, and to just make new items that I guess you could show off if you really wanted to. Some of these items would be like the sword that I referenced to earlier, that's got the skill to it, or the special necklace because it's like the only necklace in the game you can wear, I believe, and just other stuff like that. There's a blacksmith who's you basically come to when you want to enchant or upgrade a weapon. You can upgrade weapons in your inventory, right? Donating gold to not necessarily the rarity of the weapon, but upgrade like the basic damage stats of a weapon, uh, which is great. But if you take it to a blacksmith, they can actually throw on some extra added passive stats. So say like you max your weapon out, right? I've maxed two different weapons out. I've gotten them to like let's just say I've gotten them to have like 100 plus uh, like weapon damage by default, right? Um, and that's max. When I take it to a blacksmith, I don't think he can break that, right? I think it's stuck at max like that. What I've seen a blacksmith be able to do is alter the weapon so that now it also does 20% more damage and has X amount of more reach. And possibly when you kill an enemy, you heal a little from it, right? He adds little small different things like that. And that can change your experience with that weapon for sure. And that's basically what I've seen the blacksmith capable of doing. There's an alchemist. From what I've seen, the alchemist makes potions. The potions can be used to help you in game, like do more damage or heal a little more whenever you take healing potions or whatever the case may be. I've never really used the alchemist, so I don't want to steer you too far wrong. I don't know how easy it is to get the materials, but I remember when I first saw it, I was like, there's no way I'll be able to do this. Right? Outside of the blacksmith, the crafting, and the alchemist, there's the scientist. I want to talk about the dungeons. So the dungeons, like I said, enemies have a chance to drop healing potions. You don't just like heal by default in game. I mean, you kind of can if you haven't been hit for X amount of minutes, but in general, you really just don't heal by default in game, right? Like in the middle of fighting, unless you're using skills from an element or have some kind of crazy attribute to like your weapon. If you want to heal, you have to pick up healing potions and use them. Healing potions are dropped from enemies. They're not always dropped, so you won't always have the chance to use a healing potion. And sometimes you just gotta fight for your life and thug it out. So I can see how the alchemist could be very helpful. When you're playing with friends, you get an EXP boost. More friends you have, the larger the boost is. If you put money into the game, you also have a chance of getting EXP boosts. But there is a code that you can put in, at least right now. It's a part of the Xmas update where it gives you like a 24-hour double EXP boost, which helps you climb really fast if you're really just on the game playing nonstop. The scientist. Now, in my personal opinion, I believe I said this about Blox Fruits, or not Blox Fruits, but it was one of these One Piece games. It's somewhere on my YouTube channel. I feel like games that offer double EXP, that should be the base EXP. Like, you shouldn't even have a double EXP. I can see how it can make you more money and how it could be more valuable, but I feel like every game should have just base double EXP. You shouldn't have to like pay to level up quicker. You know what I mean? Like think about how many more people would play your game if they knew leveling up was this easy just by default, right? And then they could take breaks or spend their time trying to spin for this or trade for that or whatever the case may be. It would be super useful, I would think. But hey, that's just my take on it. Um, Speaking of trading, you have to be level 60 in order to enter the pearly gates in order to trade. When you do trade, you sit at a table with another individual. You can only trade like 7 items at a time. I hope that changes in time to where you can trade a lot more than 7 items. I'm glad that there's not, as far as I've seen, there's not really a trading limit per day. On top of that, there's not a trading fee, so it doesn't cost you gold or like gems, which is like the Roblox currency of the game. It doesn't cost you that to trade. Um, I just wish that you could trade more in one sitting, because I traded with people where like they give me like a full set of cosmetic gear or a weapon or whatever the case may be, and they might want to throw this or that or this or that into it just because they want to clean out their inventory or they want to throw me something extra to help or whatever the case may be. And because of that, I'll have to like we'll have to step away from the table, come back into the table, and do it all over again. And that can be really like time consuming and overall just sort of annoying, you know? Why not just make it to where we can trade as much as we want in one sitting? I mean, I'm sure there is a valuable reason as to why we can't, and it's probably because somebody did something to mess something up. But hey, that's okay, you know? I'm not going to stress too much about that. It's not that big of a deal. Going over to scientists. There's like, my friends called it a lore system. If you've ever played Diablo 3, and there's another game as well, but I'm blanking on it. But Diablo 3 is like, I think Path of Exile, maybe not Path of Exile, but Diablo 3 is Division 2. But Diablo 3 is the biggest one, where you can essentially take an item that you've unlocked, put it into like this universal library, and you can pull it out of that library, like its effects or whatever the case may be, and put it onto an item that you already have to make that item stronger or cooler or whatever the case may be, right? I think that that would be super awesome to have it in a lot of games like this, and this game has it. Though, from my understanding, when you donate these items, it doesn't really do much for you, but give you extra backpack slash inventory space, and it gives you one other thing, like money and a title, like gems, like 200 gems and a title, and that's for your first level. So I don't know what the actual cap of the level is, but they show you little silhouettes of all the items that you could turn in, excuse me, and you can't turn in duplicates. So I can only assume that like maybe the highest level is like 3 or 4, maybe 5, and that's if you've unlocked every single thing in the game. Which some things are 1% drops, and one of my friends that I played with told me that it took him 5 hours to get a 1% drop that he basically can't use anymore because it's too low of a level for him to even really bring with him now. But he has it, I guess, just the flex, which I want to say to the developers or whoever's listening, if that item becomes like null, void, right? Like if it's something that we cannot keep using just to play through the game with, can you make it to where like we can use it as a cosmetic? We can transform it into a cosmetic, or if you get it at least once, you can permanently have it as a cosmetic. You know, I'm really big when it comes to like cosmetics and being able to change the way things look because you know if you look better, you feel better. In my case, if I look better, I play better. If I get a really crazy skin or a crazy like outfit, a crazy hat or whatever in a game that I really like, you're gonna see me pop off in that game. And if I really suck at that game, then that crazy skin or outfit or whatever the case is gonna be is gonna push me to do better in that game because hey, like I can't go down looking like this. You know what I mean? So you know, I just feel like that would be a really cool feature to have in the game. This is me just throwing stuff out, right? Throwing stuff at the wall. Like I said, nobody will hear this. I'm talking to myself. Another feature in the game are summons. Summons are basically how you can summon the elements that you want to use in a game. This is like the gotcha part that I was referring to, where you basically spend money in order to do this. If you don't spend money, you can do quests. There's also a battle pass where you get more points towards it if you do the quest. Like most games, the battle pass is free unless you want the second tier. The second tier, which is like the boosted tier where you get twice as many gifts. I think it's like $10, $20, $15, something like that. Um, there's a pity system, which I think is pretty cool for games that have like gotcha. You're guaranteed at least one really, really cool whatever. If you spent X amount of money trying to get whatever, you know what I mean? So there's a pity system. If you hit whatever percentage while spinning, you have a chance of getting something really amazing in its place. And that's because you've like spun so many times that you've gotten nothing but garbage. And I think that's really cool. I spun like 3 dragons the other day, and I didn't even use dragons, so I was like, this is kind of a waste. And at one point, I was almost literally giving them away. So, mind you, I just started the game like 5, 6 days ago, maybe 4 days ago. So, um, yeah, But there's that. Um, corrupteds. Corrupteds are like altered versions of elements and items. They basically make them like godsend. They're supposed to be super powerful, super useful. People love them. People go out of their way to try to get it, whatever they can corrupted, from what I've heard. I haven't looked too deep into it. I don't know too much about it. I've had a few corrupted elements because people have traded them to me. Outside of that, eh, you know, I don't really see a point in corrupteds. Maybe if this game does like take off and fly in time, maybe I'll see them become something a little more useful and big. But right now, in my like day to day play, eh, right? I wasn't even really aware of them until I started hearing a little bit about them. One thing I thought was really cool is you can actually unlock dual wielding in this game. You have to be level 110, go to like this little hidden location in the game, speak to this person. They'll tell you, like, they'll give you a quest. You go out, you finish the quest, and bam, supposedly you've unlocked the ability to use two swords, which I would like to assume means you get twice as much damage when you M1. I could be wrong. I won't know for sure. I'm 110, so I can do it, but I've already changed my build, so I'm not like straight up melee weapons. And I only got one free build refund from codes. I got maybe one more from the battle pass, and I might be able to get one more from the battle pass if I just keep playing through. But if I decide to buy the battle pass, I should definitely get one more because I know there's one in the second tier. Outside of all that, though, there's also uh, Sus Vampire, which is like an NPC that you can talk to, and this NPC essentially is kind of goofy. I'd say like a really goofy guy because his name is Sus Vampire. He hangs out like at the top of the hill next to like the palace, castle, whatever the case may be. And he basically sells you fruits, right? You can buy them with gold for like 64,000 gold. And apparently they have a chance of dropping a mythic or a legendary, so they're not always going to be rares or commons. If that is true, I think that's amazing. I think that would be absolutely beautiful to see in game, and I would love um, to experiment with that a little more. Right now, though, I am kind of just at the level I'm at, so it's not like I'm going to see too deep into that because I guess right now the goal would be just to figure out a build that I want to use that I think would be pretty useful for like the next 100 something levels. Um, you can also see in the video I died like twice. Something I don't like about Angel is your hitbox is obviously going to be larger, which the reduced damage would make sense because of that. But at the same time, you're also kind of like suffering from excess attacks and whatnot. You know what I mean? So like in this video, if I'm right underneath the boss and he's like blowing me, something nobody else will do, I actually take extra damage from it, even if like I'm not right under the boss. So that's fun. Dungeon difficulties. Most dungeons are gonna have like the standard difficulties and a few extra. I've made it to like the Snow Castle, Snow Village, Ice Village, whatever you want to call it. Basically, dungeons have their normal difficulty, a medium difficulty, a hard difficulty, a hell mode, an infinite mode, and maybe a nightmare mode, which essentially means with each difficulty that you run, you'll have a better chance at unlocking something very useful as far as weapons or gear goes, and you also have more EXP per run. It's not like a ton more, but it's enough to where once you finish it, you'll probably level up at least once per run or so, right? So I think that's very awesome. I love to see that in games. Infinite mode, infinite run, you basically just it's lower EXP, lower drop rate, but you can fight forever, which helps when you're trying to get quests done and missions done where you run like the same thing forever and a half, right? So I think that that's super cool, super nice, super sweet, and I actually really do like that about this game. I haven't really seen that in many games, but then again, I'm not like always playing Roblox. I play a lot of different games. Um, I put a oh never mind. I know what I did. So there are enhanced enemies. There are enemies that like glow blue. They sparkle blue. They have like an aura as if they're like a snow enemy. It was a little confusing at first because I didn't necessarily know what it meant for them to be enhanced. From what I've learned, it basically means they do more damage and they have more health. So it takes more swings or more kills to kill them. But if they touch you once, they're going to do about twice as much damage as a normal enemy would, which doesn't really sound too crazy right now. But when you're caught up fighting a boss and like two enhanced enemies spawn and they're closing the gap on you, it's going to be a female to dodge them while also fighting the boss. At least when they're around your level, right? But killing enhanced enemies levels up you and your weapon. Well, not your weapons mastery, but your elements mastery very quickly. So fighting enhanced enemies definitely worth it if you're trying to get like a higher level towards something. Bosses, from my understanding, a lot of the bosses so far have basically been the same. They're super large, so their hitbox is kind of hard to miss, but it is still very much so possible because when you use elements and those elements involve throwing something or hitting an enemy from a distance, you have to use your mouse to aim. And when you play games like this, you usually play mouse lock switch. You kind of have to turn that off, unless of course you're like up close and personal when you're using your moves. Um, Most bosses are going to have some kind of attacks where they, I think the term is like zone you out, where they push you away and still have the ability to push you and like hit you for whatever damage they're going to hit you with. So you basically have to spend your time dodging if you don't have a lot of health, and counter attacking. But every now and then a boss will stop attacking as a whole and freeze, almost as if like they're trying to figure out what it is they want to do next or whatever the case may be. Um, Higher level boss, more damage the boss is going to do, more health the boss is going to do. Common sense, right? Some, if not all, bosses have a second phase. From what I've seen, second phases occur when you get a boss to a low enough health. But I guess for some bosses, it also plays off of time. So if you kill a boss quick enough, like with enough burst damage, they won't hit a second phase. If they hit a second phase, they glow purple. They kind of like kneel down, like they're charging up. It's like in Halo, like old Halo, where you had like that armor move where you encapsulate yourself in like crazy energy armor, and if somebody was beating on that armor, you'd reflect that damage back or whatever the case may be. It's like that. Except from my experience, if you run into it, you instantly fail the game. Like it kills you. That counts towards your lives. But in general, if it doesn't hit you, if it doesn't kill you, you don't have lives. Everything just runs off of time. So I don't really know what all that's about. Um, Outside of that, um, basically, when they turn second phase, they attack a lot more quicker. I think most likely do a lot more damage, and they kind of just spaz out. So you really just got to put them down when they're in second phase mode. Um, Finding information for the game. Finding information for the game has been fairly difficult, I would say. Originally, when I went looking up what this did or what that did, Google had like no answers, and YouTube would always, or Google would always like recommend YouTube videos, and you click them thinking that they talked about the topic that you were looking for, but no, no, they do not. They talk about something completely different that can also help, but it's rarely ever what it is you were looking for. There should be a YouTube video for, I'm sorry, every like item, every material item, every element, every aspect of the game. There should be like a huge playlist somewhere that labels it all out. And maybe there is, and I just hadn't seen it. But what I did find was like a wiki. It took a little bit of time, but I eventually found a link that supposedly told how to get, certain items, how to get certain skills, what you need to do in order to craft this, what you need to do in order to get this, blah, 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 blah. And that ended up being a heaven sent because there were certain items that when like you went to the website to look up because you were really curious about what they did because you had so many of them, you go to the website and you look it up and the website's like, We have no idea what this is for. There's no use for this as far as we know. It's just there to take up inventory space. But you can't sell it. So you might want to put in like your treasury system, and there's like a spare bank where you can keep stuff at, but it costs gems, and I'm not going to spend gems for a bank. I'd rather spend Robux for extra backpack space than spend gems for a bank. And I'm not like super deep enough into the game to even like worry about all that right now. So eh. But that was just something that I wanted to point out. Finding information is a female. Putting money in. I have put money into this game. Like one of the first days I played while playing with my friends, I did so. I gave myself VIP, and I think that was the only like Game Pass type thing I bought. But I also bought a little mini. It was like an advertisement, like how mobile games have, where they offered me like I don't know if it was just cosmetic armor or if it was like genuine armor and a weapon. I want to say it was like genuine armor and a weapon, like I said, as if it were a mobile game to get you through your first dungeon. But it also gave you gems so that you could spin again. It was only like $2, so I was like, whatever, I'll buy it. I wasn't really paying attention to it. And VIP from everything I've seen, because the game only says it gives you like two things, but the more you play, the more you realize it does more than just two things. It gives you like extra gold per dungeon run, and it gives you the VIP title so people can see that you're VIP, which I wish you could take off, right? Because in older games that weren't necessarily like this, where you like buy VIP for something, you could hide that so people didn't know you were VIP. Um, but it basically, yeah, just publicly lets people know, hey, I put money in the game. And then on top of that, it helps for there's like an area where you can get free gems if you go AFK. It gives you more gems per like its role if you have VIP supposedly. And there's like one or two other things that I've seen it do. Um, that I either got from a website or a YouTube video or something, but I'm blanking on it. I don't think it helps any bit towards EXP, like leveling up. The summons, the pity system. I think VIP cuts the pity system down some, so you don't have to hit 100% to get a legendary like you would if you didn't have VIP, I guess. But outside of that, I'm just blanking on the rest of it. Um, Having premium, like Roblox premium, like Builders Club, having the subscription also adds to that as well. The free spins while like you're waiting in the AFK area. I think it also gives you a little bit more gold and a little bit of EXP and something else. So just having that helps because I believe spending money in a game helps as well. So there's that. And then raids. I ran one raid while playing with some randoms, and I got to see some really cool powers. Some elements in game just looked amazing, and they were fantastic, and I loved them. But other elements, I didn't even know they were elements. I didn't know what people were doing. I thought they just had extra skills and powers and whatnot. So some things I just didn't understand at all. But playing in this game with people who are like higher or more advanced, you can really just stand still, let them go around, kill everything, and you get the EXP to level up. It's not going to count towards your element if you're trying to use an element unless you hit those enemies first. But overall, you do get the EXP for finishing a dungeon, which definitely helps. Quests can be very helpful as well, but there are times where you'll have quests like play with X amount of friends, right? Or play a dungeon with one friend, and it's like, what if I have no friends who play this game? Then I can't finish this quest. So I can't level up because I don't have friends. So now you got to go out of your way to make friends with strangers. Hey, guess what? These strangers don't care. Some will ignore you, some will add you and then continue to play without you. It's just weird. It's a weird activity, but whatever, right? So I wish that would change, right? So where they're not always required to play with friends, or if you did play with friends, you got more EXP than if you didn't. Something along those lines. I don't know, man. Whatever. But yeah, that's like a lot of the stuff that I wanted to cover just from like seeing and playing the game. Some of my like things that I want to say about the game. I think the game is fairly fun. All right, I have enjoyed it thus far playing it. While playing with friends or just playing by myself, it has been fairly entertaining. Like I said, I've only played for like not even a week really, and I'm already like 100 something. And my double EXP ended, I think around the time I was like 90ish. So I've just been playing the game. I wanted to play it a lot more and get a lot more footage in, but as of now, I'm kind of feeling a bit burnt out because, like Blox Fruits, I feel like it's not really like it's worth it, right? If you're really just into games like this, but they really shine when you have the game passes. You know, faster mastery, more EXP, more gold, more of this. All this stuff really makes your playthrough experience so much easier and better overall, right? So spending money is definitely helpful. Excuse me, but if you can't spend money, play with friends. And if you can't play with friends, then at the very least, try to see if you can't find some randoms who will just run with you because you have the ability to invite randoms into your parties right before you start a game and you can run it. Also, I played during a time where the game was glitching like a few days ago. Maybe it was something in the servers, but almost every server I joined, I thought it was just me. Other people had it happening to them too. We would fall through the earth on spawn and we would like die on loop for a minute. And I couldn't like stick around to do much because I had to leave because I had to go to class. But I do have some footage of that. It probably won't be up on screen. I don't know if I'll even post it, but everything you're seeing now, if I was like, hey, as you can see, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm going to speed the video up because this, like I said, was all during a live stream. I think sometimes I went to go get food or go to the bathroom or whatever the case may be, so I can see a good bit of times I'm actually like laying down or my character standing still or I'm at like the startup screen for the game. I don't necessarily know what was going on at the time. I turned my audio off, whatever the case may be. Um, and instead, what I'm going to do is just speed up the video and have like this rushed footage of my gameplay. I don't know what I did exactly to change why the game looks like this now. I'm still trying to figure things out, but whatever the case may be, um, hope this helped out a little bit towards anybody who's curious about the game, how the game plays, what the game has to like offer, and if there are any developers or whatever who, for whatever reason, decided to listen to what looks like a 50, almost a 53-minute video, um, and wants to take anything I have into consideration, thanks. I did want to do like a real review, and I did say I'd post 2 videos this week because I missed the video last week. So that's it. I'm going to sleep. I'm tired. Stop bothering me. Goodbye.